I very much do think that agents will be taking over, and not in any way to take the power away from journalism at all, but to in fact enhance the opportunity for each individual to, I believe, consume even more information as long as we personalize it properly.
Hi, welcome to the Media Copilot. It's a podcast that dives into how AI is changing media, news, and communication. I'm your host, Pete Pachal. I covered tech for a long time as a journalist, and now I have deep discussions with the media players, the builders, and the creators who are answering the question, how will we get information in the future, and how will that change the practice of news gathering and the business of media? I'm excited this week to talk to someone building a product that sits right at the center of that question. It's Eva Cicinyte, co-founder and CEO of Gnomi, which bills itself as an AI-powered real-time news agent. Gnomi synthesizes live news, data, and other stuff online into contextual understanding with clear sourcing. Right now, Gnomi is pushing harder into finance with features like live earnings calls, KPI extraction, and calendars to bring users a new intelligence layer to markets. It's all in service of understanding what's out there versus just reacting to it, at least according to them. But we can hear from Eva herself now. Eva, welcome to the Media Copilot.
Pete, thanks so much for having me.
Nice. So I gave kind of like the short version of what Gnomi is, but tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? How did you get involved in it? And why focus on this particular aspect of AI and media?
It's a great question. Well, I've got a few backgrounds that I think could be fairly irrelevant. But in 2013, I stumbled upon an opportunity that allowed me to be part of a bigger influence, and I've gotten myself into data analytics, helping to run global presidential elections. And I was in that until 2020. The reason how I got here where I am today is because I really got to see the good and the bad on how data and information can either influence an individual or manipulate them. And to me, it became very clear, actually, very quickly, that I wanted to help humanity to make better decisions by providing better access to information, essentially. And that's how we got here.
Nice. That's yes, we definitely need the help, according to some of maybe the decisions that have been made in the past 10 years. So let's talk a little bit about Gnomi. It calls itself, or at least you guys bill it as, like a real-time news agent, and like not really a traditional news app or aggregator. We've definitely had plenty of those. But what does that mean in practice? Like what does it do for you?
Well, for us, all these aggregators are technically feeds, and we really classify ourselves as an agent because we don't optimize on engagement and discovery. We optimize on deeper understanding and decision making. And so our agent very much focuses on providing the most relevant information at the right time and at the right place to the right individual. So they're able to make that quick decision when it matters the most, and go on with their day.
Nice. How do you measure for that? Like, I know that's a common question, but understanding seems like a kind of an abstract thing, right? Like, how do you know when someone has sort of achieved that level of like, oh, they didn't just react to something, or they have a deeper understanding, or what have you? In media, you're always kind of looking at these secondary indicators, whether it's something like time on page or scroll down, I don't know, whatever it is. How do you sort of look at it?
Well, AI is really, I would say, is getting good at prediction, but decision doesn't just come from prediction. Decision comes from judgment, and we do not consent on judgment on behalf of an individual. So we provide you all the tools that are relevant for you to consume and contextualize. And it's really up to you to make that decision as a human being if it's of value to you or not. Of course, there's scoring and there's certain techniques. We very much measure your behavior. We understand your interest. The more you use us, the better of understanding that we have. We have the ability to also uh, suggest things in relevance based on the things that you've already consumed and looked into, with the almost uh, prediction scoring that you would find useful to make that judgment call once it comes to it, if that makes sense.
Right. And so what is I guess a typical user, like how do they get started on it, and how do they like what's incumbent on them to because because AI is less of a, when you use AI anyway for news discovery, it's less like give me a front page and I'll just pick, but it's more like, okay, I'm going to put in a query. And I think in your case, there's probably, for a news app, there's some kind of like setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I guess is one, that sort of journey of a typical, like I'm getting my, I don't know what you call it, summary digest, my intelligence in a typical day. But and then after that, like tell me, like how does a user typically go from like that to a power user? Like what are the sort of signals?
Well, the onboarding process, we tried to make it as simplified as possible because, quite honestly, we all know that nobody has time. And
Totally.
the way the onboarding process usually works for us, and the way we have implemented it now, and how we're working towards it in a much more, I would say, better way that will be coming out in the next few weeks, is when you go on Nomi, firstly, you're able to try it out without any login. So you're able to take a look at what Nomi is able to offer you. You're immediately able to tell an agent what you're interested in within the prompt capability. So it's no longer, at least at this time, you're choosing the categories. You're speaking to an agent and you're telling an agent that I am interested in public policy. I am interested in politics, specifically in these countries. I am interested in this particular tech company in the view of this country. And you're really able to create that prompt as an initial, I would say, onboarding experience to then allow this agent to begin its thinking and curation for you and topic generation based on the things that you told this agent to do. Now, of course, the reality is we're not perfect, and our efforts will continue to go towards that perfection. That what I think will take many years, if even accomplished. But in response to that, we also allow you to correct your algorithm as well. So if this agent has in fact given you too much of something that you've already asked for,
Mm.
and you do see that, I would say, perhaps you're getting something of too little or too much, you're able to tell that agent to adjust and curate based on the things and the amounts that you're looking for to consume. Um, the chatbot, at this time, I think we're all digging the same hole with all the chatbots in that area. What we've really, I believe, done well is implement that conversational capability where you, at this point, no longer have to chat, but you're able to speak to news as you're speaking to
Mm.
probably the most informative friend of yours that knows everything around the world, and is able to respond to you in context. Um, the finance mode onboarding at this time is very simple. Once you have subscribed to our pro subscription, you're able to really just dive into the finance mode, either through prompting or, again, conversational capabilities, where you're able to really ask the finance agent anything. And based on the data that we carry in the back end, it's going to be able to answer to you in context based on what it is that you're looking for.
And so as I think about, the like obviously the more I would use it, the better it would be, right? In that, oh, it's sort of getting a better understanding of the things I look for and be able to sort of hone the results around that. I feel like maybe a barrier for people might be like, I'm doing that already in some AI platform, whether it's Perplexity or ChatGPT or something else. And do I want to essentially start from scratch, with this news aggregator? And is the intelligence that I'm getting good? Because it sounds like your product might be amazing in intelligence, but it's that sort of, you sort of said the analogy of like a best friend that knows everything about the world, except it's more like when you start it just knows everything about the world. It's not your friend yet, right? But I have a friend in chat. Like, in other words, what I kind of wonder, is there a way to bridge those things? And I sort of think about, what the agent world is supposed to become, where you have some kind of orchestrator, agent, whatever it is in your life that does know you and then goes to a service like, oh, I should use Gnomi for this because they have better intelligence. So right now, like we're talking about like the user interface, is there like an agentic layer that might be able to bridge those things? Are you thinking about that? Is that I don't know how that, would be like an MCP or an API or something. Like, you tell me, but what are your thoughts on that sort of barrier of like, oh, I need to ramp up here to get the best case out of this, and how do I shortcut that?
It's a great question. And we are generative AI. So we definitely tap into similar tools that Perplexity does. We're AWS wrapper, and we do, again, we leverage all the top LLMs as Perplexity does. For us is really prioritizing, and the memory layer that we're focusing on specifically to deliver to you when it's related to news. We focus on categorization, personalization, and relevance. And also, we don't just focus on the manual engagement with our product, but we very much provide that passive experience for you as well, where the curation happens for you, rather than you asking a question and receiving an answer via the chatbot. And I think that's what makes us very different, is that I think for a long time we've known that journalism is very much passive experience. I don't want to look and choose what's very important to me. I want the system to know what's very important to me and provide that to me. And it really goes back to in the old days, where you would just receive this newspaper on the on outside of your apartment, and you would trust that everything that you're very much consuming is to your interest. And so we're trying to
Right.
really personalize that experience for you in a very passive way, that you really do not have to do anything else but just to come on Nomi, and Nomi is your best friend, knowing what is the most important things to you, providing you in a way that it's very easily consumed.
Nice. So I've got a prop here. I've got the thing you guys gave us at the event from a few weeks back, and it's got a lot of great stuff in here. Good stuff on vision. I really like what you've articulated about serving people, not manipulating them. There's a lot of talking about, like, basically surfacing better understanding rather than outrage and that sort of reactionary stuff. It all sounds really great. I think everyone would agree that's what we want more of. But it is one of those. I think, I don't know if what how you. I want to hear how you think about it, because it sounds like a bit of a catch-22 for you as a business, which is to say, optimizing for this sort of, not just outrage, but the unhealthy, shall we say, informational rabbit holes people go down. Um, uh, that seems very difficult to balance that with sort of increased usage and the traditional metrics that any sort of media or social media company would want. Not that you're a social media company, but you know what I mean. And so that, how do you do that? Like, how do you think about, like, I think this is the sort of dumb way this sort of manifests is like Instagram telling you get off, like, and TikTok saying stop, these sort of things. But you obviously do them in an intelligence way. It's a much more subtle thing. So how do you balance that? Like, hey, we want users and we want users to engage with our product, versus we also want to make sure they stay healthy in their informational diet?
Well, it's a very loaded question. And I think, as we continue to grow and evolve, a lot of things are going to change and evolve with us. Um, as a human being, for even myself, consumption is very personal. The more you know me, the more you give me what I wish to consume and understand better, the more I'm going to be interested, and most importantly, trust you to keep coming back to you to understand the world in a better in a better way. I think all of us, are very much so suffering from information overload. Nomi is not here to give you more information. Nomi is here to act as an intelligence layer to contextualize information that already exists for you in a very personalized way. So you're able to trust Nomi to do that over and over again. And that's where we think the customers keep on coming back. Again, going back to, the fact that we don't optimize on discovery and engagement and clickbaits. For us, we don't have a typical user. Our early adopters are policymakers and lobbyists and people that are very much dependent on real-time information to make that informative decision that would allow them to either understand what's happening in the world and make a better policy or make more money. And so that's what our early adopter is, and that's what we're aiming for to continuously evolve our system for.
And when a story is fast moving, there's uncertainty, there's competing accounts, there's no settled truth yet. How do you handle that?
I think, and again, great question. I think what we're looking for sounds like is how do we fact check? And so the fast response is not binary. There isn't a yes or no. Should we provide the story? Should we not? Because we don't provide stories. We provide topics, and we provide a digest of topics. We cover across 189 countries. We cover all the relevance in relation to that topic. And in the back end, and by the way, we're working really hard now to provide that transparency also to our user based on what we already have in a back end, is really doing that by scoring. Is it a developing story? Is it a story that is again very much conflicting in one region versus the other? Is the narrative very much supported, in this country, but disputed in the other? And we try to really provide that balanced response to you within that answer of that you're looking for. So it's not just this is what's happening. This is what's happening and why it's happening and how does the world actually view this issue right now.
Yeah, I feel like the world aspect of it, like particularly with translation, so lots of people would never have, I don't know, like various publications that simply don't have English language versions, or just that's not common in their diet, in their news diet, and that a lot of that would get overlooked, particularly in real time. Certainly if something's big enough, it's going to trickle through. But the language barrier will slow things down. So that seems like it's a differentiator. And I guess, how do you think about, well, first, are you seeing it as kind of a differentiator? Is it something that people actually actively look to Nomi for, or is it sort of something that they just sort of subtly appreciate the longer they use it? And, also, like, how does it better inform your finance mode, which I'd love to dive into a little bit more next?
I think, in terms of multilingual capability, it's definitely a very strong asset that we have. And I think it's necessary for any global product today. We're trying to revolutionize access to information. And the only way to do that is to by dissolving barriers, cultural barriers as well. The way United States reports what's happening in Europe is not necessarily what's actually happening in Europe, and vice versa. And I think that cultural barrier and understanding that cultural barrier and breaking it down for an individual is incredibly important, because again, depending on a country to uh, based on their access to journalism is tricky. I'm Lithuanian, and we see a lot of coverage happening in relation to the Eastern Europe from the United States side, and a lot of it is missed in context. And so it's not just the translation; it's also the breaking down the cultural barriers with the translation capability that I think the users are very much appreciative of. So hopefully
Yeah.
that answers the question.
I know I wanted to go to finance, but I also like what you're touching on is makes me want to talk a little bit about local actually first, because it's like if you think about, we talked about it in context of multilingual, but actually like even if you think about geographic, right, like these local areas that have been decimated, frankly, in terms of the actual journalism jobs, and a lot of I don't have to go over all the stats of how many newspapers are no longer exist in various communities in places like the United States. But that doesn't mean people there aren't interested in news, and it doesn't mean there aren't people still kind of doing news, just kind of in different layers, right? So there's like local, um, channels of on maybe on social, and certainly a lot of things that are now being uploaded to YouTube that are either official government stuff or what have you. um so how does Nomi, if that's my interest, right, if I'm a user and I'm like, oh, I sure I'm interested in big news, but I also want to know what's going on in my community and how those two things intersect. um is that are you finding that's kind of a use case that is um that this intelligence layer is particularly good at, and are you finding that as a maybe a budding demographic of user?
Well, firstly, we don't just go after uh, news sources. We do, in fact, go after YouTube, we go after Reddit, we go after other social media platforms that we have licensing agreements with, allowing us to crawl that information that is personalized to you. And in fact, when you are onboarding on Nomi, you have the opportunity to connect your socials, allowing us to understand what it is that you're actually engaging with at the time when you're not on Nomi. Because the reality is, only really 10% of your time a day, to some more, you're really consuming news. You're really on aggregators and trying to read these articles. And so the rest of your time, you are on different platforms. And in order for our agent to really understand what is of interest to you, we really need to tap into your other activities to provide you that relevant information that you are engaging with outside of Nomi. And so, to that point, going back on what it is that we're providing you in terms of, you know, data and whatnot, it's not just headlines anymore. It's any relevant real-time information that we're able to pull for you that goes beyond headlines, either through
Right.
our data licensing partners or other social media platforms which come into the video context or audio.
Nice. How do you do partnerships? Is it, do you do a mix of like direct with publishers versus other sort of platforms or aggregators, or Uber agreements with that have access to a lot of this content already?
So the social media effect is a little bit more simplified because it's automated. If you're trying to get a partnership with X, it's really just a request and an API call that you pay for, and of course they have to approve you, but it's not as luxury and exclusive as it sounds when it comes to the social media platforms.
Right. Well, what
And
about
of
publishers
course,
specifically?
journalism, of course, we are very much looking to create those direct partnerships with top news media sources, and we dedicate programs that are very much incentivized to attract journalists and news media sources to work with us, and to allow us to provide access for our agent to analyze that information at depth.
So let's talk a little bit about finance mode. So it's obviously very specific and sought after demographic. There's certainly a lot of platforms that try to serve this group. You think of the Bloombergs of the world, and whatever it's a terminal or even if not a terminal, but like there's a lot of sites that are trying to give that level of intelligence or some level of intelligence to people interested in the markets. And so, just really quickly, what would you say is the differentiator that Gnomi has? Why someone would want to either go with Gnomi instead of those, or at least add it to their sort of diet of market intelligence? What's the sauce here?
Great question. We were very excited about the finance mode because we're really trying to revolutionize and contextualize very fast moving information to you at the right time. So firstly, Nomi, again, continues to focus on real-time information. And so the way that we do that in the finance mode is by have invited live earning calls that you're not just able to listen to when it comes to transcripts as they're happening, but you're also able to leverage our agent that is able to analyze things for you, not just what is happening now, but how it could potentially affect things in the future based on the previous data of that company that we already have going back 4 years into storage. And so it's the two things. It's the immediate access to when things are happening, because quite fairly, everyone knows that in finance mode, and so do you. When it already comes out to news, it's already too late. And so we're really trying to give the first hand of information when it's occurring, so before it hits the headlines, so people can make that informative decision and have the agent capability to not just hear what's happening, but also analyze and contextualize of what could this possibly mean and why does this matter to me at this time and day. And I think that's what really makes Gnomi Finance Mode different, is the combination of the data, but also what it is that we're doing with that data at the right time and at the right place to each customer.
So how this would manifest in practice is something like, okay, I'm listening to the call here through Gnomi, and it's bringing in not just the data from the company, but also like, oh, these some story that was in the industry or that happened. It could be like, hey, this is actually relevant here and might be something you want to consider in however you're interpreting this. And here's sort of a take on that. Is that sort of like how that might happen? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to sort of reach to an example here of like.
Well, I have a great story of my own, actually. And I'm the person, one of the reasons why I really wanted to go after finance mode is because I've never been the person to understand stocks properly. I've never known what to invest in. I've never known when to invest. And, for me, it's been a real struggle because, everybody knows that you want to put your money to work. And so for me, the way I have leveraged Nomi, which till this day I'm very proud of, is at the time when I was very passionate and still am on NVIDIA stock, they were having live earning calls. And during the live earning calls, they were actually announcing the investments that they were going to make for certain companies and whatnot. And that to me was a very clear indicator at that time that the stock is going to go up very quickly after this live earning call is over, once it hits the headlines. And so what I did was, at the time when the stock was low and as the live earning call was happening and they were announcing their earnings and their investments, I went and purchased a bunch of stock that at that time was down. And kid you not, in maybe 35 minutes, I've made a significant amount of money, because by the time it hit the headlines, it was already too late. The stock was going up. So, personal stories like this, where we're able to simplify and provide you a simplified access to individuals that perhaps don't speak that language as much as other people do is also our goal. Where individuals are looking to understand the market better, contextualize the market better, to kind of cancel the noise and go after the signal and what is really important. Agent is able to do that for you as this live, these transcript calls are happening in real time. It's not just listening to this anymore. It's really us providing you the capability to understand what matters most in this particular live earning call that we're providing at Gnomi Finance Mode at this time.
Yeah, it sounds like you've kind of identified the underserved person in this whole aspect. I mentioned the terminal, and there's people who are always trying to sell their system on TikTok or whatever, who have like probably 5 monitors with all these things, and there's that hyper connected person that already has like a lot of products in the market for them. But then there's also the person on the other extreme, which is like, well, I just throw my money in a mutual fund or an index fund, and I'm done, because I don't get that stuff on the other extreme. But they want to be a little more, well, I don't want to turn into the 5 monitor guy, but I do want some more active, be a little more active in this, and have basically essentially someone who's my own sort of personal advisor, which might be this intelligence layer that you're putting on.
Yeah, we very much have the slogan that we're Bloomberg Terminal for news, because we're really just taking that static information and we're monetizing into informational insights, decision-making insights. So we're bridging that gap where you no longer need to have the 5 monitors and the ability to digest that information yourself. We have the ability to do that for you and bring the information that matters to you in context from many different data points that result in that particular insight.
Nice. So yeah, I'd love to get your take on how you see kind of the big picture of news evolving now that AI is obviously becoming the front door for a lot of people. A lot of people just use it as a Google replacement, and it is rapidly becoming that sort of a summary is like either a first stop or at least part of the experience that you're doing, whether it's like you're asking a chatbot for news or you get AI overviews. And how do you think about Gnomi fitting into that, vis-a-vis this layer, which doesn't maybe offer quite what you're doing, but is that going to be what happens, or do you think it's just going to be more like, oh, agents will just bring you stuff, you're not even going to go to websites anymore? Again, I guess I'd love to get your broader take on like what you think news is evolving into for people, and then where's Gnomi in this layer of stuff that most people are looking at, however they're getting it.
Yeah, it's a great question. I very much do think that agents will be taking over, and not in any way to take the power away from journalism at all, but to in fact enhance the opportunity for each individual to, I believe, consume even more information, as long as we personalize it properly. The search ability takes a lot of time, and people don't have time, where the agent does the work for you and really understands you and personalizes this experience for you that is one-on-one. I think that's what's really powerful about AI. And also, what I am very hopeful for is that AI will really collapse this inequality of knowledge, where we are really able to go beyond the cultural borders, where we're able to understand the topic on a much broader spectrum than just on a local basis or regional or national. If I'm interested in a particular topic, I want to know everything that is happening about this topic. I don't want to have one narrative. I want to understand all the narratives, because journalism, the beauty of journalism is that there's people behind that, and AI is not there to take it away. It's there to enhance the experience by giving that journalism into the right hands at the right time, at the right place. And that's exactly where we see Gnomi playing its role, is not to diminish journalism, not to do anything but to enhance the experience by personalizing it and contextualizing it so we can increase the interest from people where they feel like they're actually reading something that matters to them, and not to everybody else.
Yeah, I'm curious how you think that's going to manifest in a product kind of way, and you don't have to announce anything right here, but you do finance mode. You got to be having some plans on your roadmap for the
Yes,
coming
yes.
year. Can you give me a hint about like what's next for Nomi?
Yes. So again, we're very much cautious of the fact, and our business model is built to provide you information in the fastest way possible and have you get out, to do your thing. And so part of that is to deliver you the information where it's the most convenient to you. And so giving you a hint that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching a new feature that will allow you to get um, I would say, a gist of the things that you care about in a very specific way outside of Nomi, in the most convenient way for you. So we're excited about that feature.
Oh, I'm excited about that feature. I like convenience. I like stuff coming to me. I don't like going to things, which I think is a big theme of everything you're talking about here. Give me the intelligence, but also I want it. I don't want to have to work hard for it.
Exactly, exactly.
Just as a wrap up, I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about what you're hopeful for in terms of the future of news and AI, and also what you're cautious about, what you maybe are a little discouraged about in the future, and with respect to our information ecosystem. Sort of what kind of keeps you up at night. You can do those in whatever order, but I try to avoid being too depressing or too optimistic, so I mix them together.
Yeah, as I said before, I think I'm extremely excited about the fact that today AI can really collapse that knowledge inequality. For the first time, someone in a small country, small region, small town is able to access the synthesized information and understanding as someone with institutional research teams. And that to me is very transformative. For me, what I'm mostly concerned about, as we continue to not just build Nomi, but continue to build these AI tools, is that AI is, well, the race with AI towards, I would say, maybe the engagement maximizing AI is a big concern to me, where we're really focusing on, what is the most sticky, how we can get the most engagement out of this particular tool versus how we can help humanity to better understand whatever it is that they're trying to understand with the tool that we're providing. And that to me is a big concern. If intelligence systems optimize for attention instead of truth, uh, they amplify noise, and that's a very big concern to me. Um, I guess the last question was what I'm hopeful for.
Right. Although you kind of had a bit of that in there with
Yeah,
the beginning of your answer and the what
yeah. I
story.
think moving forward, the what I'm really hopeful for is that the systems will continue to be built with intent, to help humanity, to revolutionize access, to make things easier, personalized, and contextualized for humanity. I'm very passionate about providing the equality of information to everybody at a very low cost so people can make informative decisions, regardless if they're a billionaire, millionaire, or someone that is making a very subtle salary, because all of us deserve to have access to information equally. I really do believe that the world is going to be a better place if we're able to speak and think for ourselves with the tools that AI is providing. So as long as we are aiming to build with intent to help humanity, I'm very hopeful that AI is going to be absolutely transformative.
I wanted to leave it there, but there's one important question I forgot to ask, and your answer orbited it so well that I need to wrap up it. Where does advertising fit into this picture? Is it part of your business model, or will it be in the future also? And in all the big picture stuff you mentioned, certainly now that the big news of ChatGPT is now has advertising, super relevant right now. Tell me, where do ads fit into this?
I'll start with the fact that only 3% today of of the people that use AI actually pay for it. And the rest are really using these tools for free. And it's a really big problem. And I think us as an industry, we're really trying to figure it out, how we can make money on the tools that we have in fact built and providing to humanity. So it's a real issue. I think, with ChatGPT releasing ads, as Sam Altman has said, I think at this point, a few years ago, that it was really a desperation point. Is because it truly is that only 3% are paying for the services, and the rest are contributing to the massive burn rates. We as a particular, we as a intelligence layer specifically for news and a specific user niche that we're going after, we are, of course, only providing access through again, we're providing access for free, but we're providing understanding through a subscription. And so we're able to monetize that way. And with that being said, we're extremely cautious when it comes to ads at this time, because we do not think that our particular early adopter is interested to be sold anything. We are here to contextualize and help you make a better informative decision at this time. And so again, in the future, it's definitely something for us to consider when it comes to that free tier. But it's very hard for me to envision providing ads for any paid service that we're offering right now at Gnomi, because that's not our customer at this time.
Cool, makes sense. Not interested right now, but never say never. Yeah.
Never say never.
Cool. Eva, this has been fabulous. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us here.
Pete, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Eva Cicinyte. The Media Copilot is a podcast, and it'd be fantastic if you could give the show a star rating if you're listening on Spotify, a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and a review if you're on Apple. All those things really do help the show because it'll put our podcast in front of more people. The Media Copilot podcast is produced by Michelle Musso and Ryan Huntington of Musso Media. Look for their link in the show notes, and don't forget to subscribe to the Media Copilot newsletter as well. Thanks again for being here and following the podcast, and I'll be seeing you in the future.